It was an April afternoon, sunlight pouring through the windshield of the old SUV Marcus Johnson was driving. In the back seat, his two kids chirped like sparrows, arguing about what their new house, the one with the big backyard, Mum and Dad promised would look like. "I want a swing set," 6-year-old Naomi shouted, her eyes sparkling, "and a big tree to hang a birdhouse on." Her 10-year-old brother Caleb rolled his eyes but smiled. "I just want my own room. And a space for games, without Naomi bothering me." Marcus chuckled, tightening his grip on the steering wheel. In the rearview mirror, he caught Olia's gaze, his wife, weary from another week teaching at the public elementary school. Yet behind her tired smile was a glimmer of hope. Maybe this time, they'd find their own home. The house they were about to tour was in a northern suburb of Atlanta. A quiet neighborhood shaded by old oak trees. 2-story homes with white porches, American flags fluttering out front, lawns neatly trimmed. As the car turned into the street, Marcus's heart sped up. This felt worlds away from the cramped apartment they'd called home for 8 years. Waiting outside the cream-colored house with the brown shingle roof was Rebecca, a white real estate agent. She smiled when she saw them, but her eyes flickered just for a second. Olia noticed she had seen that flicker too many times, in the gaze of a school parent, a bank officer, even a colleague's forced smile. "Welcome, Johnson family," Rebecca said brightly. "This home is truly wonderful. 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, a spacious backyard, and only 5 minutes from the elementary school." Naomi ran across the lawn laughing. Caleb peeked inside the sunlit hallway, and Marcus followed. Excitement, mixed with unease, swelling in his chest. For a moment, he pictured family dinners around a wooden table. Olia, baking in the kitchen, the kids chasing each other on the lawn. He imagined this house as the American dream that so many black families had longed for, ever since the fall of Jim Crow. But in Olia's mind, other images surfaced. She remembered her grandmother's stories how, in the 1960s, her grandparents were denied a home simply because they were black. The bank had said the paperwork was not in order, yet a white family next door had been approved easily. Her grandmother had called it redlining, those red marks on government maps that branded black neighborhoods as too risky. "Do you think this time will be different?" Olia whispered as Rebecca showed them upstairs. Marcus squeezed her hand. "I've got a stable job, great credit, steady income. There's no reason they'd say no." His voice was steady, but deep down, he wasn't sure. They signed the intent to purchase papers. Rebecca promised to push the application quickly. That night, back in their apartment, Marcus opened his laptop to run numbers again. Everything lined up. He grinned. "We can do this." But Olia, resting her head on his shoulder, whispered, "I just worry." The numbers were never the real problem. Outside, Atlanta's skyline glowed in the night. Inside, their dream lingered, half promise, half question. 2 weeks later, Marcus opened an email from the bank. His heart pounded, expecting good news. Instead, a single paragraph froze the air in their living room. "We regret to inform you that your mortgage application cannot be approved at this time. Additional documentation of income and financial sources is required." Marcus read it 3 times. He had already provided every document: pay stubs, tax returns, employment history. His credit score was above 750, excellent by any standard. He printed the letter and showed Olia. She was silent, then murmured, "Remember Josh, your coworker? He just started last year, makes less than you, and his credit's average. He got approved last week." Josh was white, a heaviness pressed into Marcus's chest. Numbers those he had trusted all his life suddenly meant nothing. The next day, Marcus met with the loan officer. The bank lobby gleamed with marble floors and expensive perfume. White couples breezed in and out, signing papers with smiles. Across from him, the officer, a neatly dressed white woman, spoke in clipped tones, "We'll need further proof of long-term income stability." Marcus frowned. "I've been an engineer at the same company for 6 years. Permanent contract. You can see the pay stubs." She nodded politely, scribbling notes. "Yes, but policy requires additional assurances." And your debt-to-income ratio is somewhat high. Marcus nearly laughed. It's 20%. The guideline is under 36%. How is that high? She only shrugged. The meeting ended with, "We'll review again." Marcus walked out, knowing nothing would change. That night, Naomi asked at dinner, "When are we moving to the new house, Daddy?" Marcus forced a smile. "Soon, son. Just a little more waiting." But when he met Olia's eyes, he saw her fear. "They're not looking at the paperwork," she whispered later. "They're looking at our skin." Marcus wanted to argue, but he remembered his father's stories how in the 1980s, despite working a steady government job, his mortgage was denied. The reason? Their chosen neighborhood was not suitable. His father had shown him old maps, red lines circling black neighborhoods. "See, son? To them, we're just risk zones, not people." Decades later, Marcus heard those same red lines echoing in rejection emails. Another bank, another denial. A quick phone call. "Your application doesn't meet criteria." No explanation. Aaliyah wept. How many generations will be shut out? How many times do we have to prove we belong? Marcus sat in silence, fists clenched until his knuckles ached. He had done everything right and still, the doors slammed shut. Late at night, Marcus scrolled reports. Black applicants with the same income as whites were twice as likely to be denied mortgages. Homes in formerly redlined areas still valued 20% lower. Appraisal bias, black-owned homes consistently undervalued, often by tens of thousands. Each statistic cut like a blade, but also confirmed. This was real. Marcus closed the laptop, looking at Olia, restless in sleep. He whispered to himself, "We can't stop here. Not just for us, but for what's right." One afternoon, Olia took Naomi to a playdate at a classmate's house, a bright white home with a blue door and blooming bougainvillea. The classmate's white mother smiled politely, ushering them inside. While the kids played, she turned to Olia, eyes lingering on Naomi's dark skin. "She's adorable, but have you thought about straightening her hair, lightening her look a bit? It might help her fit in." Olia forced a smile, but inside, the words cut deep. She had heard it all her life. Lighter is prettier. Straighter is better. That night, Naomi sat on her bed, whispering, "Mum, why did my friend say I'm too dark?" She said, "I look like dirt." Olia's heart broke. She held her daughter tight. "Baby, your skin is beautiful, like the night sky. It's strength, it's history, it's ours." But Naomi's eyes stayed clouded echoes of Olia's own childhood pain. As a teenager, Olia had faced the same cruelty. At school, even within black circles, lighter-skinned kids were called the pretty ones. Teachers favored them, while darker-skinned kids were labeled loud or angry. She remembered the mocking laughter. "You'd fail the brown paper bag test for sure." Later, she learned an old, cruel ritual. If your skin was darker than a paper bag, you were excluded. Colorism had shadowed her entire life at work, in stores, in subtle looks. Now, it was touching her daughter. Marcus faced it too. At his tech company, he noticed lighter-skinned black colleagues were seen as safe. But with his darker complexion and broad frame, Marcus was often read as intimidating. Once, after a heated meeting, a coworker half-joked, "Marcus, don't glare like that, you're scaring me." He hadn't glared. He had just existed. Late that night, Aaliyah confessed, tears brimming, "I'm afraid our kids will grow up believing they'll never be enough. That because their skin is darker, they'll always have to work twice as hard for half the reward." Marcus held her. "That's why we can't quit. Not just for the house, but to show them they're worthy, no matter what." The next week, Rebecca showed them another listing. Aaliyah brought along Sarah, her white colleague. With Sarah, Rebecca was cheerful, offering negotiation tips. But when Aaliyah joined, Rebecca hesitated. "I'm not sure this neighborhood would be the right fit for your family. The HOA has strict rules. You might not be comfortable." A polite phrase, but the meaning was clear. This place isn't for you. That night, Aaliyah wrote in her journal, "Generations have passed. From my grandparents, denied by redlining, to my parents steered away from nice areas. Now, even with jobs, education, money, doors still close, simply because our skin is darker. But I swear, Naomi and Caleb will know their skin is a torch, not a shadow. Saturday morning, the appraiser arrived. The Johnsons had tidied every corner. Aaliyah placed fresh flowers. Naomi taped a family drawing to the wall. Caleb stacked his games neatly. The white appraiser walked through briskly, barely speaking. His eyes lingered on the family photos. Marcus in a suit, Aaliyah at graduation, the kids grinning. He scribbled notes, tapped walls, snapped pictures and left in 15 minutes. A week later, the report came. The house was valued $40,000 less than expected. Marcus froze. That number made their mortgage impossible. In desperation, Marcus told his white colleague Brian. Brian suggested, "Try this. Take down your photos. Hide anything showing you're black. I'll be there when the appraiser comes." The idea stung, but they tried. They stripped the house bare of identity. No family portraits, no African art, no black authors on the shelves. The home felt hollow, like they'd erased themselves. When the next appraiser came, with Brian greeting him, the result was stunning. The value jumped exactly $40,000. Naomi overheard and asked, "Mum, why do our pictures make the house worth less?" Aaliyah couldn't answer. Marcus held her tight, shame burning. That night, Marcus stared at the stars. He thought of 1930s redlining maps, of 1968's Fair Housing Act, of the promises that never reached reality. "Our worth is stolen," he whispered. "Not just the money. Our dignity." At church, they shared their story. Others nodded, same pain, different houses. A retired couple said their home was always undervalued compared to white neighbors. Another woman admitted she'd had to let a white friend pretend to own her house to sell it fairly. The pastor sighed. Decades pass, but the song is the same. Black homes are always priced lower, not because of bricks and wood, but because of bias. The Johnsons joined a housing rights group. An advocate, Denise, told them, "Your story isn't unique. We've collected hundreds like it, but every voice adds to the fire. Someday, it'll burn bright enough to change things." Hope flickered, but so did anger. One night, Caleb asked, "Why don't they want us in that neighborhood, Dad?" "I don't get it." Marcus's throat tightened. He finally said, "Because some people believe worth is about skin color. But I want you to remember, our true worth is not in numbers they write down. It's in our strength, our refusal to give up, and our right to exist with dignity." Silence. Then Aaliyah whispered, "We'll keep fighting. Not just for a house, but to prove to our kids that we are worthy." The Johnsons' story spread. A local paper ran the headline, "The Home That Lost $40,000. Overnight, a black family's struggle for fairness." The article went viral. Families across the country shared similar experiences. Social media erupted with #OurHomesOurWorth. At a community meeting, Marcus stood trembling before a packed hall. "I did everything right," he began. "Studied hard, kept a good job, built great credit. My wife too. All we wanted was a house. But we were denying not for numbers, but for skin. When we erased ourselves and had a white friend stand in, the house's value magically rose. So tell me, where does the real value lie?" The room was silent, then thundered with applause. Aaliyah's voice shook. "My 6-year-old asked why our pictures made the house worth less. I refused to let her grow up believing her skin is a burden. Her skin is a gift, a story, a strength. That's why we fight." Tears filled the room. Lawyers offered help. Politicians pledged support. But backlash came to. Banks denied wrongdoing. Appraisers claimed market objectivity. Some commentators sneered. "They're just playing the race card." Aaliyah threw the remote at the TV. "They don't live in our skin. They don't know." Marcus pulled her close. "They don't want to know. But if enough of us speak, they can't ignore us forever." Months later, with legal help, a smaller bank finally approved their mortgage under strict oversight. The appraisal was fair this time. On signing day, Marcus's hands shook as he scrawled his name. Aaliyah cried as Naomi and Caleb ran across the yard shouting, "This is our house." Inside the empty living room, they hugged tight. Their family portrait, the one once hidden, was hung proudly on the wall. But not all was peaceful. Some neighbors watched with wary eyes. A note appeared in their mailbox. "You don't belong here." Marcus crushed the paper. One house wouldn't erase centuries of injustice. Late at night, Aaliyah sat on the porch, whispering to her grandmother's memory. "Grandma, we finally have a house. But I know the road is still long." Marcus sat beside her. "At least our kids will remember we didn't give up. That matters." At school, Naomi drew their new 2-story home and wrote above it, "This is our home." For her, it wasn't just an art project. It was a declaration. The Johnson story became a rallying cry. Advocates pushed for fairer appraisal laws, stronger bank oversight, and broader reparations. In an interview, Marcus summed it up. "A house isn't just shelter, it's dignity. When our homes are undervalued, the message is, we are less." We fight to reject that message for our kids, and for every black family. One autumn evening, the family sat on the porch. Naomi leaned against her mother. Caleb gamed inside. Marcus watched the setting sun. Their house wasn't perfect, nor their world. But it stood, solid and real, a testament to resilience. The American dream wasn't whole, but the Johnsons were rewriting it, day by day, with defiance and love.